Three friends, one amazing series of YA novels, an insatiable thirst to relive the glory that is K.A. Applegate's literary masterpiece. This is Phantomorphs, the Dork-Bajir Chronicles.
Hello, and welcome to the Dork-Bajir Chronicles, a podcast where we read through the Animorph series one book at a time, and then we talk about it every week on Mondays. Today we'll be talking about the Andalite Chronicles Part 2. I believe it's called Alloran's Choice. My name is Mikhail, the host.
I'm Tessa, the expert.
And I'm Brayden. I didn't have one this time. I tried coming up with a joke about being an albino Cassie, but I didn't think anybody else had seen that movie, and it's pretty racially charged now that I think about it, so I shouldn't have even gone there.
Wait, which movie now? Now you've got me all curious.
I mean, it's just called Albino, and it's just this weird old movie following the director and writer is also the co-star, and it's about two slaves who escape into the swamp, and one of them's an albino, so he can be played by a white man.
Ooh.
Every time I get worried that our intro is too much like a generic YouTube intro, Brayden just hits me with this like super long, racially charged comments.
Which is like only like most of YouTube, but not all.
Yeah, you're not going to see this on
So-
like Drama Alert or whatever fucking terrible cancer is on YouTube right now.
We are definitely going to see this on Drama Alert now.
Yeah, okay.
Oofda doofda. So
We've
covering
spoken his name.
Alloran's Choice, which is the proper pronunciation.
I can't wait for the opportunity to sweep Keemstar's leg. Oh boy.
Oh, Jesus. Okay,
Okay.
Tessa,
Yes.
hit me with the summary for Part 2, Alloran's Choice.
It's Alloran if you're wrong, but it's Alloran if you're right. And I'm
Nah.
right. And also, pronunciation doesn't care, the author is dead, blah, blah, blah. I like to say Alloran, okay? Okay. Anyway, Elfangor is a bird. He's got 12 wings. He's got 6 pairs of wings. It's crazy. How do that many wings fit on this small bird? But he's flying around the Taxxon homeworld. It picks up directly, like, where the last book... Well, it backs up a little bit so that you still see, like, Chapman has Lauren, and he still says the line of, like, there's a whole planet full of humans. I'm gonna sell out my entire race because I want you to know that I'm a bad guy, even though I haven't been yerked yet. He gets on board the Skritnash ship with the help of Arbron, who's still in Taxxon morph, but womp womp, we find out he's an Offlet in Taxxon
it's
form.
Arbron if you're wrong. It's Arbron if you're right.
Well, I can't roll my R's, so I guess I'm wrong.
It's a Tolkien name. Arbor. It's Sauron's brother's stepson.
Yeah.
You can either roll the R's, or you can just kind of like throw that R in the back of your mouth and just go, Arbron.
Oh,
Or
God.
you can or you can just roll the R, except like sort of bring it up and down, like, and that's just Tolkien talk.
Nice. Nice. But he's stuck as a Taxxon, and he can only say screet you, and it's terrible. It's horrible. It's, yeah, Taxxons. This is the first book where we actually find out how it's bad to be a Taxxon. This is the first time we know what kind of like the Taxxon psyche is like, and how they have this unending hunger where they will actually, like, if they're cut in half, they will start to eat themselves because they see food, like it's uncontrollable. And an Andalite is stuck like that. Like, that sucks. But Elfangor flies the ship, and Arbron shoots with it, and they shoot all of the bug fighters out of the sky as they run away, and they crash land in the sand, and Elfangor is knocked out for a couple of hours. Because he needs to sleep. My boy has had a day. He wakes up. He finds a couple picture books and some strange little cylinders that people put in their mouths, and also a yellow Mustang convertible in the back of the ship. And he cracks open a couple of cold Dr. P's and foot on the pedal motors his way back to the front lines to get that little Andalite fighter.
There's that part where he's like, I put Dr. Pepper in a pan and drink out of it.
Like a cat.
Wouldn't that like obliterate his like gastrointestinal system?
Like, right? Like, what would all of those flavors, like how many flavors are in Dr. Pepper, Braden?
27, man.
27 flavors.
How many taste buds are in an Andalite's hoof?
I mean, there's probably at least a couple. Maybe like 3. But like, can you imagine just like the acid and the carbonation? What's that going to do to his little Andalite tum-tum?
I mean, they've got to have like pleasure foods on the Andalite. They're not savages.
Well, now that we think about it, actually, I don't think they taste at all. That's why Axe goes crazy when he eats food.
Oh, motherfucker.
So Elfangor just like feels the carbonation and like feels a little strange in his tummy, and then drives this yellow Mustang convertible with this tape player. I was gonna say CD, but excuse me, we're in the 90s.
Which
He's
is
just like cruising through the desert in this car.
How does he reach the pedal? Like,
how does he sit? Like, what? Is he sitting on his back legs? Like, I have so many questions.
The image of Elfangor driving a yellow Mustang through the deserts of some red Mars-like planet, like a heavy metal horse-bottomed John Carter, is pure and amazing, and I think it cured my grandma's death.
Like, it's so pleasing to think about. You got all the primary colors, and then you've got the product placement, Dr. Pepper.
Yeah.
And you've got, like, some good tunes blowing.
What was that soundtrack? What was it playing?
I don't remember, but I want to say Prozac.
oh, I thought it was like Born to Be Wild.
I think it was Born to Be Wild. I think it was something like that. But, like, how good would Prozac be, though, right?
What does Prozac do?
Like, the band, Prozac.
No, like, but what songs did they do?
Oh, my God.
www. I know he'll be there. Da, 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 da.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, and everyone was so like, who are they? Who could they possibly be? They're 2 anonymous dudes who have cartoon avatars. And then we found out, and it's just like, it's 2 dudes from the Philosopher Kings. Who are the Philosopher Kings? You don't know. You forgot about Prozac after this.
They got a very happy sound from what I remember from my brief stint of listening to Prozac in high school.
It's very, like, overproduced. Anyways.
Oh, I love it. Anyway, so Elfangor's having a great old time thinking about things and driving his car, and he gets swallowed up by the earth, like Tremors style, and he finds out that the mother/father/androgynous parent of all Taxxons is a living mountain who goes by any and all pronouns. And they're great, and they have this huge, powerful psychic voice that almost knocks Elfangor unconscious.
Yeah, I don't think it's that the mountain is a mother-father. I think it's just like, that's where this hive correlates.
I think it's just the mother-father is called the mountain. It's like, it's a hive mind, but there's obviously some kind of queen, like, in charge. Like, it's not just that all the Taxxons together make the noise.
I think Braden's right more.
It's a singular hive. I mean, we don't have any sort of info to go off to say, like, there's a biological, like, central being. It's just that all these different creatures are one brain, which raises the question, why aren't the other Taxxons like that?
Yeah, my theory was that the living hive was saying the things that the majority of the Taxxons were thinking. It just comes across as, like, language. I
thought it made it, it's not necessarily a majority vote, it's just that they all have, it's one vote. They all are one mind, essentially, like...
So it's like an anthill, but without a queen.
Yeah, made up, instead of voting individuals, just, like, all their experiences essentially correlate into a brain. Like, if anybody else watched, like, the first 5 episodes of Sense8, then just decided this isn't that good. You know, that's like everyone else.
I hate Sense8.
Yeah.
I watched all of it, and by the end, I was like, I hate myself now.
Mikhail was like, there's not enough group orgy scenes.
There was too many by a long margin.
I always thought of, like, the Taxxons had their own, like, personality,
Orgies?
and they each had their own brains. And that's why Arbron can communicate with the hive, like, as his own self. Like, so Arbron is there. Also, Elfangor finds him, and he's got a whole new reason to live, and he's, like, telling the hive like all about his intel about like Andalite technology and Yeerk technology and stuff. So he's leading this resistance against the frontline Yeerk camp, and Elfangor goes along in his car to hopefully bust on through like mammal swine, try and get to that ship and escape. So they do that. This tube sucks him and his convertible up to the front line, and he drives towards the ship and jumps out and tries to get on board the ship, chopping Dork-Bajir left and right, and he flies away with Alloran, Subvisor 7, and the 2 humans. Alloran in Dork-Bajir morph had come up alongside Subvisor 7 and kidnapped him and brought him on board. So Elfangor tried to do it, but there was a lot of Dork-Bajir. So thanks to Prince Alloran, they were able to get on board. Elfangor is reliving this book. Like, it's not written out in real time. Like, a lot of the Animorphs books are written out as if they're lived in real time, even though they are written in past tense. But this one is a reliving, because as he says in the very first part of the very first book, it's like him linking himself to his ship.
It's his final,
and like, it's his final
testament.
It's his final testament. So, excuse me. So he started to drop hints in this scene, this upcoming scene. He's starting to drop some hints about how things are not what they seem, but he's also being very honest about what he thinks. The Andalite ship flies away, and Prince Alloran orders him to kill those Yeerks that he talked about earlier on the Yeerk ship that they infiltrated, and Elfangor is like, no, I'm not going to do that, and he knocks out the prince instead, with the help of some of the humans. So they fly them back to the Skritnaw ship, and with time matrix on it, and he goes down. It takes him about 10 minutes to melt away the walls of the ship so that they can get that big old white ball and take it out of there, and then he figures it out. It's Yeerks all the way down. Subvisor 7, while they were flying, had been dropped through the hatch, but that wasn't Subvisor 7, that was some other Yeerk. Subvisor 7 had already infiltrated Chapman. But now that Elfangor is blasting away at this ship and getting the time matrix, nope, he's made the abomination. Subvisor 7 is now in an Andalite body.
Dun, dun, dun.
All right.
My notes say that at this time, SV7 has infiltrated out of Chapman into Alloran, becoming the big blue beefy beaglemaniac we all know and love. Shenanigans happen, by which I mean a fight, and Elfangor dumps Subvisor 7 onto the planet, talks to the bug fighters impersonating Subvisor 7, and tells them to zap the Andalite on the ground so that Elfangor can get away. And he's like, no, he's the fake he's like the actual Andalite. I'm the Yeerk Andalite. Go kill him. So Subvisor 7 is running along the Taxxon home planet while Elfangor farts off to Z-Space. And they hang out in Z-Space for like a week while Elfangor tries to figure out what on earth to do. And like, Lauren is like, why aren't we going into real space? And Elfangor is like, okay, but like, there's definitely a tracking beam put on this ship. Chapman told them all about it. As soon as I pop into real space, we're going to have Yeerks on our tail in like 5 seconds. And Chapman's like, oh no, he figured out my plan. But, Elfangor has a plan. With that plan, he's like, oh, wait a second. I can actually set a trap for the Yeerks. I'm going to jump out of Z-Space into real space right next to the huge Andalite fleet, and they're going to kill all the Yeerks, and it's going to be awesome. So he does that.
Boy Fangy getting nasty in this taxi.
Okay.
But the Andalite fleet is already getting attacked by energy-hungry meteors.
Yeah, that was kind of out of nowhere. I was expecting that to be a big deal, like, holy shit, a new, like, energy eater species, like, oh, this is gonna turn out to be, like, one of Visor 3's morphs, like, we're gonna see a later description, but no, it's just, conveniently, there's energy-eating meteors.
I mean, you don't know if Visor 3 morphs those later. Right now, we know he doesn't morph them in this book, but you don't know.
I thought the whole idea was that they were like inanimate.
I think that's what it is. It's like they're not alive. They're just these rocks that are
attracted to it.
There may be rocks. I'm thinking it's probably a lichen inside the rocks.
Oh, and what are you basing that theory on?
Just the fact that rocks can't think. But also,
it doesn't matter. I mean, like a volcano can't think. That's not going to stop it from like obliterating everything around.
Well, yeah, but that because the lava follows gravity, whereas a lichen will actually like, oh, I'm a plant and I need to eat energy. There's no sun here in the deep space, so I'm going to try and find any energy I can, and I'm going to fart out gas on one side, so I propel myself through space to zap up the light.
Moss and fungi have been shown to be able to survive in a vacuum along with other microscopic organisms.
Also that, which I definitely knew. Thank you, Brayden, for backing me up.
But I think there's no way it could be a fun guy because
it's not
They
fun.
seem pretty miserable, yeah.
yeah. Wordplay on with the summary, please.
So the little Andalite ship gets out of power, and somehow Visser 32, he's been promoted, gets onto their ship. So the Andalite bad boy is on the ship, but the whole ship is being pulled into a black hole and collapsing Jimmy Neutron, and they all decide that the only way to escape is to get to touch on that their time matrix, which is outside of the ship attached to a little rope. And that's where the book ends.
A tiny, tiny rope.
Yeah, man. Tiny rope.
So, book 2. This is where, in my notes, I mentioned that, man, Alloran is even more of a firecracker in this book than he was in Dork-Bajir Chronicles, and, like, he and Visser 3 would probably have gotten along great in a different life. Like, if they were both Yeerks or both Andalites or something, I feel like they would have, like, if the circumstances had lined up, they would have gotten along great. They agree on so many things. From what we know of Visser 3 and what we know of Alloran.
Everything we know about Alloran now, I wonder how much it colors book 8, where we see Alloran without his Yeerk for the first time in presumably decades, right?
Yep. Which is interesting because also book 8 we know is a little bit off what was the new canon, because book 8 Axe talks about how the Dork-Bajir get to warring every like 32 years or something because biologically, which we know that's never been brought up again, even in the Dork-Bajir Chronicles. So I feel like they like wrote that out. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they wrote of Alloran sans Yeerk before they really knew Alloran's character. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So
I feel you.
Also, imagine being Lauren in a time like this. Like, you're living your life, enjoying the 70s, and then bam, suddenly you're kidnapped and falling in love with an alien.
So I don't think he was enjoying the 70s.
I mean, Lauren was. Chapman wasn't.
Yeah.
Lauren was okay.
Chapman is still... I hate that he's in this book at all. Yeah, I don't know. He's so cartoonishly evil.
It doesn't do anything for... It just doesn't do anything for this book that it's Chapman.
Yeah, it could literally be any guy. They just go so out of their way to show that he's a bad guy before he becomes Yeerk infested, so that 9-year-olds feel okay with hating him?
I'm making a prediction. Next book, we see Chapman gets iced in the next mainstream Animorphs book. And
what?
This was a way to, like, build up to that, to make
like
people
book 24,
like,
you mean?
Maybe book 24, 25. It's somewhere in the next cycle coming up.
Oh, damn. Brayden, how do you know all these things?
Writing is a science. I said it at the end of the last one, and I'll say it here. Books are art. Writing is a science. Yeah.
Okay, total sidebar. This whole, like, Flatties conversation about dimensions that he has with Lauren, that Elfangor has with Lauren, that's something I've remembered and thought about for years, and I never knew it was from Animorphs. Like, when remembering it, I always thought it was from H.G. Wells or something.
No, it's a real book. I think it's Asimov that writes about.
Because I know it's like, because whenever I read, because I'm rereading it, I was rereading it in Andalite Chronicles, and I had the same thoughts as before. Where like, oh yeah, you're flat on a piece of paper, and then a real life person comes and picks you up, and because you're 3D, and then thinking about a 3D person, and then a 4D person comes and removes something, and the only idea I have for a 4D person is like a 3D person, but like walking on an angle. Like they're floating in the air and like sticking at an angle from me. Like that's the only idea I have for fourth dimensions. Like, as you can probably guess at this point, I'm not super good at imagining crazy shit.
Well, there was a pretty good, what was it, Rick and Morty, where like there's a fourth dimensional being and he just treats time as though it were space. So it's like, oh, I'm in this one spot. I just want to travel through time right now. So he doesn't walk, he like moves something on his wrist, but you could picture it as walking, and like then he's just in another time, just like you would if
like
you
Dr.
were
Manhattan.
walking and in another space. No, Dr. Manhattan was more like a god. Like he could manipulate matter. Just because you live in the fourth dimension doesn't mean you can manipulate matter.
He didn't move through the fourth dimension, he just perceived the fourth dimension.
Okay,
he could see every single moment in his life at the same time, but he had no control over it.
And his view of the future was obscure. Like, it wasn't perfect.
Oh, yeah, because the future is never certain.
Well, for a fourth dimensional person, the future is certain.
For a person who can view the fourth dimension, but someone who could move through the fourth dimension could affect future events because they see what would happen, and then they can just correct it.
But it gets so confusing because it's like, for them, it's not a future event. It would be like saying, like, I move this glass to the right.
You're right.
Therefore, it can never move back to the left. But that's not true, right? For a fourth dimensional being, you could kill someone in the future, then just travel back and be like, oh, I don't kill them now. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not finite like the way it is for us. Anyways, we should probably move on to the best part, which is another science breakdown. Why do you think Taxxons, like, have to eat each other?
Taxxons don't have to eat each other. It's just, like, humans don't have to eat each other.
They have to eat in general.
So let's think about, like, evolution for a second, right? Because predators, just like prey, are subject to their environmental constraints, right? A T-Rex couldn't live if there wasn't hordes of stegosauruses all around. So if your whole thing is like, I'm hungry for meat all the time, which also begs into question like what their biology is, because eating meat actually, like, it takes a really long time for humans to digest meat all the way through. It's not like sugar where you instantly get energy, right? It's fat, so it's a slow release of energy.
Well, it's protein.
Well, it's protein and fat, but
and fat.
The point I'm trying to make, though, is that, like, do you think that at one point there was a ton of prey, and then all of a sudden something happened and all the prey left and they started eating each other? Because it also doesn't make sense for them to murder and eat each other, right? That's never made sense for any evolutionarily, like
pandas evolutionarily. Okay.
You got it.
Thank you. Evolution has decided that pandas are going to eat bamboo and also not be very interested in sex. You know, like, evolution doesn't, it will just do things. It doesn't really have a theory of doing things for the best reason. You know what I mean? So, like, it's not like evolution will make the best choices for the predator. But I feel like your theory about maybe something happened is a good one, because there's literally no plant life on this planet. So probably because there's so many Taxxons, something was there for them to eat, and then a meteorite crashed into the world, let up this huge dust storm, and the only thing that kept the Taxxons alive was their bodies being really good at converting everything they ate into energy, like some form of energy. But that meant that they had to eat all of the time to have this energy. So now they have to eat all the time.
What if Taxxons were the only thing that ever evolved on this planet? Like, they started the microbe.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
It's impossible. Let me tell you already, I thought of this already, and the reason is because if that was true, the strongest Taxxon would be the only Taxxon alive on that planet.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, necessarily, because they would keep eating each other until only the strongest ones were left. And then if they couldn't stop eating, the strongest ones would eat the weakest of the strongest, and it would just pare the species down to, like, the tiniest amount of population. Okay. It doesn't make sense.
This is why I also think there has to be some other figure as the mother/father/parent of the Taxxons, because the babies have to come from somewhere. And if the Taxxons are so interested in, like, they're so ravenously hungry, when are you one of the most vulnerable? When you're taking a poop or when you're making love? So, like, they would get to humping and just try and eat each other, or they would eat the babies.
Wait, yes, there is the hive. Yeah, we didn't take that into account. Okay.
So probably the mountain just, like, farts out another Taxxon every once in a while.
But that can't be it, because, like, I mean, that can't be the way they give birth, because, like, then the only Taxxons would just be the hive mind, and there wouldn't be Taxxons that are joining with the Yeerks.
You don't think that they just, like, pick off rebels? Like, when the rebels get too strong, too weak and hungry, they just bribe a new group of rebels for their army?
Well, and that's why I don't think that's why I think there has to be like a parent figure and not just a bunch of Taxxons make the hive mind. You know, like that's how new Taxxons get made. So that, and then each Taxxon can choose if they want to go with the Yeerks or join with the hive mind.
Something like in the middle of that mountain, or maybe the mountain itself, that is like has a limited range that is bonding all these Taxxon minds together. Is it possible the Taxxons are a what's it called? A progeny species like the Dork-Bajir? like something out of like Halo with the Forerunners, how they like made all the other species in the universe. Could we have a similar situation going on with the Taxxons? Like maybe there's just a fucking computer in the mountain sending out Wi-Fi that's like eat, because it's just stuck on some loop that actually there's supposed to be other commands for Taxxons, like build me a house or run the other direction. Maybe this is some sort, like a nanite deal. You know how there's always like the gray goo?
Okay. Before you get into the nanites, the only thing with like the computer in the mountain is that the Taxxons on Earth are still programmed to want to eat a whole lot. So either it's a super-powered computer that's like sending out the Wi-Fi of eat, and it's broken, which I like that idea. That's super cool. But I don't think that's it, because then some other like technological program would have read the energy sensors, you know? And also it would have to be super strong to be able to go from the Taxxon homeworld to Earth to reach the Earth Taxxons, because we know that the Taxxons on Earth are just like real Taxxons.
Then maybe
on the
that's
Taxxon
not
homeworld.
like a setting, like a button on the computer. Maybe it's just like their default setting until the computer gives them something else to do.
Okay.
Like Taxxons are maybe the reason they're so hungry, and this is just me bullshitting, just going on about how much I know sci-fi tropes. I am literally sitting here in my room just full on just rubbing my inner thighs, just getting so fucking hot off my own huge sci-fi brain. Let's not get mixed up. That's what's going on. I am masturbating, and all of you are helping me by listening.
He showed it to me the other day. It's really fucked up.
It's really fucked up. There's wires sticking out of it.
And there's like smaller brains, but they're like little fat deposits. It's really weird.
Basically, I'm theorizing that Taxxons are a non-microscopic, like, gray goo scenario, where, like, there's nanites that can build anything, but they can also break down anything to make that anything, but they're stuck on breakdown mode.
Okay, so all the Taxxons have been programmed to be breakdown mode, but they could be programmed to do something else. Interesting theory. Here's a theory. What if maybe they were like the Dork-Bajir and some other creature designed them, and then they're like, you know what? Maybe the Elamists were like, okay, you know what? I want to make an animal. And they made it. And they're like, you know what? Being a parent is really hard. I don't want to be a parent to this alien species. So they created an ovary and just shoved it in the mountain, and every once in a while it will fart out an egg that will just turn into a Taxxon. So no Taxxons ever have sex, but eventually this ovary in the mountain is going to run out. And that's why the mountain wants to have the Taxxons be on its side and not the Yerk side, because it wants the Taxxons to continue. With the theory being that as long as a Taxxon will eat at least a little bit every day, the Taxxon will live forever.
I can't tell if we're trying to figure out whether or not Taxxons couldn't work biologically, or a way in which they could work because it has to be true. I just think it's like, if you brought a Taxxon planet into existence, into a place where we could observe it at the state it's in now, it would collapse within months, and it would just like, it would destroy itself. That's how I see it. Based on what we know about the Taxxons. If we're making stuff up based on what we think we might know about the Taxxons, then yeah, there's a possibility they could survive. But I think what we do know is just it just wouldn't work as an ecological system.
What we do know is that the Taxxons do have a little bit of sentience. It's just really difficult to fight that hunger. Like they are able to choose to side with the Yerks or to go with the parents, with the mountain parent, right? Like,
yeah.
So, and we're kind of thinking them as just being an animal, but maybe like Elfangor was able to say no to meat. There's got to be other Taxxons out there that are like, no, I don't want to eat this person. This person's my friend. We've like screeched seer every day for the last month.
Okay.
We're not going to do it. You know, like we're not thinking about that.
I do feel bad too, because I feel like a lot of times in these conversations about whether or not this like would work in the real world, it's like the truth is no, but the real answer is who cares, because it's still really cool. Like the thing with the fucking like tubes that shoot out of the living hive that like fire, it's like pneumatic tubes, and it opens to like let a sports car in. That is fucking wild. And all I could do is picture myself like sliding into it and then Supermaning through that tube and shooting out the other end.
Apparently Taxxons are really good at swimming, which is like, that's gotta mean there's fucking water on their homeworld then, right?
If we think about how varied the Earth is and in the size of the Earth, and we think about the Taxxon homeworld as maybe about the size of the Earth, there's gotta be, like, the area they were in was very small. It could have been the Sahara Desert. Like, there's gotta be some other stuff on the Taxxon home planet that's a little bit different, right? It's like the swimming thing. There's gotta be some kind of water, maybe.
I mean, maybe this is tied into some kind of apocalyptic event that we talked about earlier. Like, maybe there is something that happened that has nothing to do with the Yeerks, maybe. Because the Yeerks seem to only be able to take control over them based off the fact that they're hungry all the time. So maybe they found them in this state of decay, offered them a way out with them knowing that their species was dying. See, I'm trying to make it work for you guys.
Hey.
Aw, thanks, Mikhail. You're not just being Debbie Downer all the time. How cool would it have been if there was like a Taxxon Chronicles, though, and we kind of like learned about the Taxxons through Run's eyes?
Sure.
And like learned about Taxxon culture and like what it was like, because that could have been the whole backstory. Yeah. Why did the Taxxons side with the Yeerks in the first place? Because they just had a huge apocalypse. Man, oh man.
Maybe it's like the worms in Dune, where like the planet of Dune used to be literally all water, but then it dried up. So the worms just started swimming through sand instead.
Oh my god. That actually would be like the dopest explanation. Also, as far as I know, in the main series so far, we haven't had like a Yeerk fight in the desert.
It's true. We haven't.
Ooh.
That would be cool.
My first motif to Dune. Our first comparison.
No, you've definitely mentioned Dune.
You've definitely talked about Dune before. There is, very quick, I want to pivot to the Visser 3 Morph Minute. Visser 3 Morph Minute. Visser 3 Morph Minute. 3. Because Visser 3 emotionally morphed into the big and strong and buff rough boy that he always wanted to be.
And I'm gonna put I put the frickin' sound cue in already.
Yeah, it's a real Morph Minute. He has wanted to be an Andalite since, like, he heard about them. Remember all of the wet dreams he had thinking about being an Andalite when he was stuck in the Yeerk pool in the Dork-Bajir Chronicles?
Touching his palps.
Just, like, touching his palps to the computer and daydreaming about it. And now he's an Andalite. Like, he's gotta be so happy. Like, just imagine, you're knocked out, then you wake up, and your people are trying to kill you because they think that you are the bad Andalite. So you run away. But like, how cool is it to run in the sand in this great big strong body? Oh man, he must have been so jazzed. Like, he probably was like, "Oh fuck this shit." But then part of him was also just like so hype.
Do you think later he was just like, he's like now standing on grass for the 30th time today, and he's like, this fucking sucks.
He's like,
you gotta eat all day.
Humans, you at least have a sense of taste.
As we learned from Visser 3 in the Animorphs TV series, who was like obsessed with that cracker. Remember that?
Yeah, that was so funny. He was so obsessed with that cracker.
Crackers.
What was that, a Ritz? A Triscuit?
We don't know.
It might
have been one of those like celebrations, kind of like the kind of off-brand Ritz.
Was it just like a saltine?
Oh man, what if it was?
Do you guys think that if you were stuck as a Taxxon in Taxxon morph, you would like just kind of be okay with eating other Taxxons?
We've established I'm the cannibal of this group.
When you think about it, like the rebel Taxxons must be okay with eating each other because there's nothing else to eat.
It's gonna happen, yeah. I wonder if there's how long a Taxxon can last without eating. I feel like it's gotta be only 12 hours or before their stomach starts to digest itself.
Maybe the truth is like the hunger is actually not related to biological something. It's like psychological. Like there's actually no real reason why they need to eat that much according to their body's needs. It's something else about them that was like mutated at some point to make them stronger.
There's some species-wide tumor just pressing on that eat button.
Maybe it was the Q virus gone wrong.
Man, it mutated them. Mutated their brains.
That's right. Also, doesn't it say that they're like really good with their hands and like...
Yeah, they have good eyesight.
Yeah, they're not like brilliant scientists, but I mean, I feel like they could figure out how to like produce food.
Yeah.
They probably had, I mean, maybe it's literally I think the apocalypse scenario is one of the most realistic because, yeah, if they are smart and they can figure out some science and they're dexterous, they just don't have anything to work with but
You know
dust.
what? The more I think about this, the more I realize this sounds exactly like the backstory, my theory about them being like a progeny race of some sort of like creator species, like biological tamperer species, actually sounds exactly like the Zerg backstory from StarCraft.
As we are all familiar with.
Yeah.
Naturally.
As we're all exceedingly familiar with.
I mean, we went on about those Taxxons for a while. I feel like they're really the only thing worth talking about in this book, because otherwise it's just a protracted action scene, to be quite honest.
It's basically Mad Max Fury Road.
There was a bit of an homage. I got some like Evil Dead 2 vibes in there when Arbron is like, "Kill me, Elfangor! Be a man and kill me!" And he's like, Shut up, you're not real! I'm gonna get us out of there!"
Yeah, that sounds about right, actually.
Mm.
Yeah.
I need to watch Evil Dead 2 again.
One thing that I kind of thought while I was reading this, and the part before, and the part after, was this like, do you think that Alloran is like a war criminal? Like, why do they... keep him in the military?
He's definitely being punished. I think they keep him because they're at like war and they can't afford to get rid of him. But the only punishment they could do is demote him and give him like little bullshit jobs. But they literally don't have enough fighters to get rid of him.
They could have gotten rid of him by putting him in jail because he literally was about to kill millions of beings against orders.
But the fact is, they had the Q virus for him to make into a Dork-Bajir weapon. It's just too much of a black spot on their record for them to acknowledge that it says in it, the universe, some people have a conspiracy theory that we used a Q virus on the Dork-Bajir. The government obviously denies it, but I guess it's actually true. They cannot say, the Andalites cannot do anything that makes it look like that's right, including punish Alloran.
Well, okay.
Also, I feel like the Andalites as a whole just don't really care about the Dork-Bajir. They're just kind of like, all right, well, they were casualties. Either they would be dead or all slaves to the Yeerks. And we couldn't use the Q virus, but it kind of sucks that we couldn't because we fucked ourselves. Like, I don't think they actually care that much.
We're getting into theoretics of theoretics here, but like, if you asked any given Andalite their answer, if you ask them, do you think we should have saved the Dork-Bajir? Do you think we should not use a Q virus? The answer to both would be yes. I mean, they don't do this Andalites aren't self-aware in that way. They see their traipses into other races' business as benevolent. They don't say, yes, this is very logical, we shall traipse into their business and then abandon them in their moment of need. They say, in the moment, they say, we will help them because we're good. And then when they dust them off, they say, we tried. They justify it to themselves. They don't just, as a species, see it going that way from the beginning.
But like the Andalite government collectively is like a rich person who is, considers themselves to be a good person. And is like, man, it really sucks that like there's homeless people in the world. And this is like a very rich person who's worth billions of dollars who could literally buy houses so that nobody was homeless. But they're like, it really sucks that there's homeless people. But I mean, what can you do? And then they'll just invest their money so that they keep making more money. Like they don't think of themselves as actually being able to do something. They're like, we tried.
I don't think that's a fair comparison because like when you get talking about that with governments, yes, governments are operating on scales of like liquidated money on that no human being will ever be able to write on a check in their life. But at the same time, any expenditure of that money or non-expenditure of that money is seen as an act of that government. Even the most charitable act towards another government's people is overstepping their boundaries. Like, is an act of making those people part of their government. Like, you can't, it's not the same thing.
I mean, well, even before the Q virus was ever mentioned, the Andalite homeworld only sent, like, 2 fighters and, like, 1 other ship to the Dork-Bajir world, right? Like, they didn't even, like, go there and think it was a serious threat until it was way too late. They just didn't care.
Well, that's an entirely different point. They didn't think there was anything about the Dork-Bajir that the Yeerks needed or wanted.
Well, but they had a transmission from Aldrea who said, yo, we need help, Yeerks are here. And they just chose to not believe it because it was too much bother. Like, I think the Andalites, and this is something that the Yeerks will talk about a lot, is that they're the meddlers of the galaxy. Not that they're like the do-gooders or that they try. They just like to go around and like kind of meddle and be like, oh, but we helped, we did something, but not actually do anything of value, you know?
Suppose, but I feel my point still stands.
But, I mean, you said a whole bunch of stuff. Which succinct point was that? Not the government's thing and about the government with the money. I mean, that was a comparison that I made that was maybe inappropriate because it didn't quite translate over well. But, like, what was your point vis-a-vis Andalites and how they feel about Dork-Bajir?
I mean, they really did have no reason to believe that, like, Yeerks would, like, how long did it, even though they have Z-Space, we are still talking in the, like, weeks of months of years of travel to any given planet. Like, they still have the expenditure of military units towards a perceived, at least, low-value target like the Dork-Bajir world does have to be calculated. And if it just doesn't seem worth it, yeah, it would take a little while longer. And because we were seeing that from, like, the point of view of Aldrea and her family and the Dork-Bajir, it seemed dumb at the time, but, like, to be quite honest, now that I really think about it, yeah, the Andalites had no reason to send a significant force to the Dork-Bajir world, like, because they got a distress beacon.
Well, then what were they doing, though? Like, they were following
We're
the
so
Yeerks.
off track. This is like a discussion about a totally different book now. Alloran doesn't belong in the military. Like, they give him a non-standard ship. I guess they're okay with that. That's not really okay. Also, the part where they're like, oh, this guy clearly has the time matrix. Well, we don't have fucking time to tell anybody about this, so let's go do everything ourselves. Oh, we're at the Taxxon homeworld, where we would definitely have, like, spy units, like on their fucking, like, feeder planet. Yeah, let's not contact them. Let's not even send out a long-range, like, time-lapse message that will eventually get to the Star Sword. Let's not even do that.
That would be Alloran wanting to be, like, the winner of it all, though, right? Like, I feel like that would be Alloran being like, this is my chance to become a war prince
right,
again.
But that's exactly my point, is that, like, you can't have people like that in the military who want to be heroes.
No, you can't.
Anyways.
And that's why, like, and this is why the Andalites are not, like, the best people of the galaxy that, you know, a lot of people like to think they are. And that's why the Dork-Bajir are better.
Controversial.
Ooh.
I don't know if that's true or not.
All right, well, where the fuck do we go from here?
We go into part 3.
Okay.
Yeah, there's nothing else.
Next week, we'll be talking about part 3 of the Andalite Chronicles, which is called, I always forget, An Alien Dies.
An Alien Dies.
Then, the following week...
I wonder which alien. Maybe it's
the following week, we'll be talking about Animorphs number 24, which is the one where Cassie morphs into an anteater on the front. It looks dumb as shit. Classic Cassie book.
The picture on the inside cover has her eating a bunch of tiny aliens.
You can find more of our stuff on our podcast page at collectivelegacy.org or on Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, or Facebook. Please like our social media.
Remember to subscribe on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts, particularly off of our distributor site, collectivelegacy.org. Hit that like button, that subscribe button. Oh yeah, Daddy, push that fucking button inside me.
Brayden has an Audi belly button, so That's especially visceral for that reason. For the Phantomorphs,
Gross,
my name is
what a
Mikhail,
weirdo.
the host.
I'm Tessa, the expert.
And I'm Brayden, the succinct metaphor.
For once. And this has been Phantomorphs, the Dork-Bajir Chronicles. Hi, this is Mikhail. I just want to give a quick shout out to Spencer, A Heap of Games, and Anyanka for their contributions to our Patreon campaign this month. If you guys want to see things like bloopers or essays that we've written or show notes, or be part of our conversation on the Discord, just head on over to patreon.com/Dork-Bajir. That's patreon.com/DORKBAJIR.
Hi, hello, welcome to the ad for the show. I'm Mitch, the host of Whack Talk Radio. On this show, I talk to interesting people about interesting things. Do you need to know more than that? Okay, fine. Pretty much we'll talk about whatever my guest is interested in or passionate for. Sometimes it'll be silly, sometimes serious, sometimes a bit of both. Whatever the topic is, hopefully we'll find a way to make you that much more of an expert about it. You can find us at collectivelegacy.org, along with some other equally awesome shows on our network. New episodes of Whack Talk Radio are every Sunday and Thursday, wherever you find your podcasts. Let us know what you think on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Whack Talk Radio. That's WENGH Talk Radio.
Whack Talk Radio.
Brought to you by
Collective Legacy.
a podcast network.